Good afternoon or evening, everybody. Welcome back to another weather forecast here by Adrian's Weather Forecast. And it's going to be my first of two videos today. I'm actually going to be doing a double upload on a weekday, which I have not done in a while. However, I do want to talk about the tropics on my first video, and I want to have a very, very exciting upload later this evening here before 7 o'clock Eastern. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the North Atlantic, specifically on 96 and 95L, with the new area of interest here that's likely to be very interesting, which is just off the coast of Africa. So right now, Invest 96L is at a 70% still with the next 48 hours and 5 days. This is as of the 5 o'clock advisory. Shower and thunderstorm activity associated with a broad area of low pressure located a couple hundred miles southeast of the Outer Banks of North Carolina are beginning to show some signs of organization. Actually, we do have a full run from the ASCAT data, so we're going to get some overall better data on whether this low pressure is beginning to become more close and whether it is strengthening wind-wise. But recent satellite wind data suggests that the system currently lacks a well-defined center. And Air Force Reserve overall aircraft has just begun its investigation of the disturbance. Environmental conditions are expected to become more conducive to support additional development. And a tropical depression is likely to form during the next day or so while the system moves northward to the northeast or northwestward off the southeast and mid-Atlantic U.S. coast. So again, although we're not going to really watch out for a landfall or anything like that, we're still watching out for some significant rip currents and surf all across the New England and Northeast coast. Again, there is obviously a chance for some landfall, or not landfall, sorry, a chance of future organizations. What I meant to say, not landfall. There is no chance of landfall. I meant to say there's a chance of future organization and possibly even formation, possibly the next day or so, and we will get a better look at that later on. And here's a look at now the information on Invest 95L, and we do have now a 70% for the next 48 hours and an 80% for the next 5 days. Showers and thunderstorms associated with a tropical wave and broad area of low pressure located a little more than 900 miles west-southwest of Cabo Verde Islands has become less organized since yesterday. However, the environmental conditions are expected to become conducive for development during the next few days, and a tropical depression is still likely to form over the weekend. So actually, there's a small chance, or at least an increasing chance, still a low chance, that 96L could very well form to a tropical depression before 95L. And that would definitely, like I said yesterday, would shock me. The system is again expected to move westward to west-northwestward across the tropical Atlantic during the next several days. And actually, there is going to be an increasing threat for the Lesser Antilles because if this storm continues to stay less organized and it stays really, really weak, the trade winds will steer this, and by the time it actually does strengthen, it's going to be too late to turn northwest, and it could be a threat towards the Lesser Antilles. But not a major threat, but it will be an increasing threat, and we still have that area of interest at a 1020, but we will get into deeper depth later on tomorrow for that AOI. So let's now get a look here at Invest 95L, and there's the overall look at where the low pressure is basically very, very broad. Again, looks like absolute garbage. There is by far no closed low circulation. It's obviously extremely disorganized. We don't really need to look at much to just get a better idea. This is obviously really just lacking a ton of structure. There's really not much banding going on. There's really not much convection near the center. There's really just nothing going on whatsoever within this invested structure. So that's most likely the reasoning for that slight decrease in probabilities for both 48 and 5 days. So that's most likely why it's 70-80 instead of, what was it, 80-90 or 70-90 yesterday? Because I do know that 5 days was at a 90% yesterday. But again, it's really, really open. It's just part of a tropical wave. At this point, it's just a tropical trough and nothing invest-like or even tropical-like, really. So until it gets its act together, likely not to form within the next few days. But again, likely to move into a further conducive environment within the next few days. So here's the latest look here at the full ASCAT pass for Invest 95L, and there's the overall broad area of low pressure. It does look slightly better, but again, we didn't really have ASCAT data, at least yesterday when I was making my video. We did not have a full pass, so it's kind of obviously looking slightly better than what it did like 2 days ago. You decently see an overall good easterlies pushing in from the north. That is at least the northern. I was about to say eye wall, but obviously this is not an eye wall. The northern part of the overall low pressure. We are seeing some good easterlies coming in. However, we are really lacking westerlies across this portion. So obviously this is definitely not closed whatsoever, and so more elongated. We as well are seeing some decent structure for the first half of this part of this system, but again, really lacking the southwest quadrant. We are not really experiencing really whatsoever any good westerlies. So that's the reason why for this storm is lacking as well. Really lacking some of the overall wind directions in the southeastern quadrant. We are not really seeing any southwesterlies coming in. Really, just kind of just due west, and then it's kind of just like that. That's obviously not the great structure for this system. Very broad and elongated, so definitely not looking too good. Let's get a look here at the overall 37 temperature here and see. Actually, let's go actually towards this. I'm pretty sure we actually have data on this, but I'm not sure if it's actually a full pass. Yeah, I don't think any of these are actually really a full pass for this data. Yeah, we don't really have anything whatsoever full pass for that, but you can still see we are still seeing some overall decent amount of overall convection, at least somewhat. Some storms kind of popping off in the southwest quadrant, but again, this low pressure is basically right here, so it's still mainly just all over the place, I guess, as well as see kind of a lot of convection staying just to the northwest of the actual system, but we don't really have a full pass on the overall data like that. We don't have anything whatsoever on a full pass, sadly, but we do have a full pass for at least the wind data, which is pretty important, but no full pass for any of this data. So here's the track for Invest 95L, and as you can tell, there actually has been a pretty overall big shift to the south. We're no longer really watching out for a way out to sea system. There's actually a chance due to the storm really not getting its act together like we were forecasting it to. It's most likely going to start getting steered by just the trade wind alone, not the ridge, which is just to the northeast, and it's not going to get really steered by anything else. Because typically, the stronger the storm, the more it actually gets steered by ridges and troughs. But the weaker it is, typically, the more it just gets impacted by trade winds. And obviously, you see the easterly trade winds. So obviously, if it's just trade winds really steering, maybe it's a little bit of the ridge once it gets act together over here. It's most likely to be a little, probably a small threat there for Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and even the Lesser Antilles. It could be very weak landfall, and it could maybe just still miss it like Josephine did. But overall, the threat for a landfall, or at least impacts, is definitely increasing for the Lesser Antilles and the overall Eastern Caribbean. So keeping a very close eye on that. You can see a few of them also actually going directly westward, like the HMNI and the HMN2, taking it directly through the overall central Lesser Antilles, the central Leeward Islands, and then we have a few getting it towards Puerto Rico, towards the U.S. Virgin Islands. So keeping a very close eye on this. Let's not go look at the overall GFS tracks and overall members and the ensembles right now. So again, really lacking in the next 24 hours. Going to stay above 1,010 millibars. But as we gradually get closer and closer, deeper into the western MDR, the pressure will continue to drop here. A few members getting it below 1,000 millibars. So there is a chance this could get to a tropical depression, then probably even a chance for it getting towards a weaker tropical storm. So my prediction of this getting to a hurricane has definitely seemed to have flopped. Looking at the intensity guidance, they're still going really crazy right now. However, a little bit less intense. Again, a lot were getting it to a category 2 yesterday, but not only 2 are getting to a category 2, but there is still a chance this could still become a rather moderate and to maybe even high-end tropical storm due to the overall fact that it has a long time, and there is still a chance, or there's still a larger chance that it does not hit the Caribbean, so that will still give it a good amount of water time. So here's a look at Invest 96L, and it is basically not looking any better. There's the actual low pressure, believe it or not. It's actually not where this convection is. This is obviously a really ugly looking Invest too. I mean, 95 in 96L do not look like the best Invest really whatsoever, and they're looking like absolute trash. So again, not like super high hopes on 96L really. I mean, you can kind of see a decent amount of overall westerly flow kind of coming in from the overall west, and there you kind of see kind of a front like that, and there's a teeny, you can just kind of see the broad amount of rotation around this low pressure, but it's really not tight. It's very elongated low pressure. You can kind of see really elongated I don't think we actually have a whole pass on ace gap for this, but we do have a whole pass for the overall data, like 37 temp, 89 temp, and the overall IR. So right now it looks absolute trash on really IR right now, invisible. Really little to no convection anywhere near the actual low pressure itself. It seems to be a warm core system. I mean, really just nothing whatsoever. I mean, there's really like no convection going on whatsoever near this low pressure. The only convection near it's a little bit of kind of scattered cirrus clouds, but that's really not anything close to a cold core system. So overall, it's just like an absolute trash storm. So let's now look at the overall data that we have so far from the full pass, and basically the low pressure is kind of somewhat around right here. And again, there's just nothing going on whatsoever. There's really just no convection. There is just nothing whatsoever. Look at 89 color. And again, there's just absolutely nothing. You can kind of see the overall gist of the overall system, the overall rotation with the most amount of actual convection itself staying far to the east. But there's the low pressure right there. There's just really little to nothing kind of going around this low pressure. And of course, this is nothing close to closed low pressure, or this is nothing close to closed low circulation. So obviously, it just looks like absolute trash. So here's the overall look at the track for 96L. Again, going to stay far out of the way of the Outer Banks, and it's going to continue to go east, northeast at a pretty fast rate. And you guys see how fast it goes within 24 hours. So that's going to just allow for the overall chance of it getting pretty strong, like Henri or something like that in the northern Gulf Stream is very unlikely due to its really strong and overall rapid steering from this strong negative tilted trough. With obviously in the southeast United States, and that's going to push it away really at a very rapid rate going up the jet stream. So it's definitely going to move into those really cold SSTs and overall unfavorable conditions at a quick rate. So if it's going to form, it's going to have to form basically before it's anywhere close or parallel to Nova Scotia. So again, this is obviously going to have lower pressure than 95L at 1012 millibars with the next 48 hours at 1007, and then actually a lot of models, actually a lot of members getting it sub 990. So that's going to be very interesting, but likely there's a chance that's not going to form to a storm anytime soon, but there is a chance it could become a tropical depression within the next 48 hours or so. If it gets its structure, though, if it gets its structure, and then we see a lot of models getting it sub 1005 and a really sub 1000, so I'm gonna really watch out for a chance for maybe a very brief and overall disorganized tropical storm just to the south of Nova Scotia. So there is a chance that's the best chance to form before it goes near the Newfoundland area, and then it goes into too cold of water to even talk about formation. The intensity guidance. Again, there is still a lot of confidence this could form to a tropical storm within the next 40 or the next 24 hours, and they still want to get rather strong into a 55 knot, maybe even 60 knot system. So there is a chance, and actually a lot of the ensembles and overall members are agreeing within a moderate to high-end tropical storm. So here's the overall look at the 12Z GFS model run. So here's a look at what they have within the next 6 hours. So there is 96L and there's 95L within the little tropical trough right there. And actually you can kind of see there, we can actually notice and obviously observe that 96L looks a lot better in the next few GFS hours at 1012 millibars, while you just see the kind of open wave trough basically associated with 95L. But then it kind of pops up for a little bit at 1012 millibars, and then kind of just really starts to get act together once it gets to that point. But you can kind of see the GFS within a very similar time frame, 42 hours, having 96L, 95L being very, very similar pressure. 1007 for 95, and then 1006 for 96L. And there is a very good chance that we do actually see tropical depression first at 1,000. Oh, is this like 1,008 millibars first, or 1,007 millibars first? So it's likely that 96L does form first. And then you can see the very similar pressure that we kind of saw in the ensembles as you kind of go further in the North Gulf Stream. That's the best chance for 96L that gets act together and it hits the triple digits before 95L does. 999 millibars by the next 60 hours, and then 1,002 millibars. And again, like we saw in the ensembles, very likely this does get its act together. When I mean 95L, that it gets its act together. And that's going to be the chance for maybe it just skins Puerto Rico in the Lesser Antilles very last minute because of it being steered due west, all because of the steering wind, the trade wind. Exactly what it does. It just misses Puerto Rico in the Lesser Antilles because it gets act together last minute. And then we go back a little bit, you can kind of see we're getting 999, 995, and then you can kind of see pressure continue to drop as it becomes overall a big, just overall trough. And that's going to be for 96L. But look at the GFS though, it kind of has overall a really good storm now developing here. Actually potential hurricane for 95L in the long run. It kind of going basically due northward because of the overall ridging pattern. It's exactly what's going to be doing there. 1001 millibars, then getting to 991 millibars, 978, 974. That's a very, very, very weird track here, but that's exactly what the 12Z GFS is showing here. So it's still a very good chance this could become a hurricane, but a lot later than when I was, I guess, predicting there. So the CMC, of course, CMC does have a lot more confidence with the 96L, with 95L at the moment there. 1,011 millibars, 1,007 millibars there for 96L with the next 48 hours. And they really have absolutely nothing with 95L until far later on, until it actually gets north of Puerto Rico. And they're just 1,006 millibars and of 994. And the CMC has been very consistent with this kind of really getting its act together and actually become a hurricane very close to the Bahamas. So there's a very good chance it does actually kind of go like that. And once it starts strengthening, it kind of gets kind of pushed by a trough as well. Overall starts doing that northeastern shift because of there's a rather weak high pressure, and that's going to just allow for it to go like that. Exactly what we're going to be seeing with the steering. So they're going to be seeing a low level jet and they're high pressure that's going to allow it to steer the way it is, and bada bing bada boom. So the CMC and the CMC and GFS are actually being very consistent, which is going to be a pretty big help to the future forecasting. European has an overall good vorticity signature there, but a very elongated low for 96L in the far future. And there is 95L, really still struggling before the Lesser Antilles. Probably only be a tropical depression by then. And then not even the European has it getting its act together whatsoever in the future. So that's going to be very interesting. And let's now get a little bit deeper into the actual overall steering pattern. So very, very weak ridge kind of just to the east here of 96L. So it's really kind of staying very stationary at a very slow rate. But there's the developing trough. It's a very slowly progress, but there you see it becomes a more negative tilted trough. Basically right there. And there we see a stronger ridge to the north axis. That's just going to keep it away from the portion of the northeast United States. And then we look at the overall steering here for 95L. See a pretty strong ridge developing to the north axis of 95L. And it's going to basically just be south of the actual ridge itself. So it's going to continue at its rate. And there you see the overall steering wind of the shear actually taking it northward like that. Okay, basically to do northward, or kind of do northwestward, allowing it to avoid the Lesser Antilles. And as it continues there, we're going to be seeing the trough kind of bringing in some basically northerlies or some southerly trade winds, or southerly shear the overall upper levels, and then a small but weak trough developing, pushing the storm as well northward as well. So that's likely going to help it avoid Bermuda. But it's kind of like a very, very weak trough, and there's the ridge right there kind of having winds that are going north with it like that. So that's why it's getting picked up that way as well. Another big strong trough as well, steering it this way as well out to sea. So watching out for both out to sea storms.